Hi, it's the Hippie Prepper. Today I want to talk about one of the most important skills to have during hard times or during a crisis and emergency situation. I think this is something that's often pretty overlooked, and you can see I have my notes here. I think it's something that's pretty often overlooked and maybe considered almost childish, and so we think as adults that this isn't as important. However, creativity is incredibly important in a difficult situation. When many people hear things like creativity, we might think of something like arts and crafts or crocheting, and all of those things are really important to potentially have a morale boost or to, keep ourselves active and our minds active. Those are things that are important too. But really, creativity is important in difficult times because it's what allows us to take very little and live with it. Particularly in the last probably 50 or so years in the United States and many other first world countries, we haven't really had to experience creativity as a survival skill. We've been able to cultivate creativity for arts and for leisure. And I think that's so great that we're at a point in our society where we're able to do that. However, before that time, creativity was really utilized as a form of survival. Is I have this, and how can I create something that is going to be both functional and help me survive throughout my life? So it's really kind of a vital skill to have. Some people, we kind of say, are inherently born with some form of creativity, whether that's musical creativity or art creativity, building, those kinds of things. And I do believe that some people have inherent abilities when they're born. But creativity can really be a skill that is perfected as well. It can be a skill that is taught. It's very important to understand, especially going into some hard times this fall and potentially into next year and coming from this past year too. So if this is a skill, and there's lots of different skills, right, that you can develop. There's skills of woodworking, and there's skills of building, and there's skills of cooking and those kinds of things. So if we can build all of those skills, and there's certain ways to do that, how can we build the skill of creativity? Because again, in our society, this is seen a little bit more as an inherited ability, as a talent, more than a skill. So how can we build this? And why is it important? So I'm going to start with why it's important first. Well, the first thing is it can save money. If we can take something that's very frugal or very cheap or very small and create something out of it, then that really saves us money. Going into an economic downturn, or potentially already being in our own economic crisis of job loss or budget cuts and things like that in our own places, saving money is very important. So being able to use what you have and then be creative with it can really help stretch that budget. Next thing it can do is it actually lowers stress. It can really, we see this again a lot in our leisure activities for creativity, where we can crochet or we draw, or they even have those adult drawing pads now, which are super fun. So those things are stress relieving out of leisure, but we can also utilize creativity when we're using it for survival to reduce our stress level. It's very stressful to have to do something by a recipe or to do something really specifically and have to follow instructions. When we kind of get to do it ourselves, there's those really awesome chemicals that we love to release in our brains. All of those synapses get to be fired, and we feel a lot better. And it can also build confidence. The more that we utilize our creativity and the more that we utilize those parts of our brains, we can feel confident that the next time we are faced with a problem, or the next time that we're faced with something that we need to do, we can accomplish that as well. These things might not seem like that big of a deal, like, build confidence, that's fine. However, in a very difficult crisis situation where we need to rely on our past experience, or we need to rely on our own mind and our own selves to accomplish something, things like confidence and lower stress and ability to handle things is really important. And it can be the difference between us being able to make a split-second decision or being too afraid to. So it is important to cultivate those things. So how do we increase the skills of creativity? So my first recommendation is to gather things. Just get a whole bunch of stuff. It's always helpful to be creative if you have a baseline of things to pull from. So when we're talking about cooking, this might look like having a really well-stocked pantry. So things like rice, beans, wheat, oats, lentils, seasonings, baking things like baking powder and baking soda, salt, pepper, those kinds of things. Having all of those things well stocked gives us something to pull from. So if then we get maybe just a whole bunch of blueberries for free, someone gives us a whole bunch of blueberries, we can make a lot of things with that. Or if somebody says, hey, I have an entire deer that we just processed, and if you come help me package it, I'll give you 30 pounds of that meat. Then we can pull from that and create meals that are interesting and delicious and we want to eat. So gathering things when they're free or on sale or we can buy in bulk is really helpful. This is also really helpful with building materials. So for instance, we're actually about to build a greenhouse on our homestead. Very excited about this. We're gathering just materials, pallets. If we can find scrap wood, we're getting it. We're utilizing tarps, things like that. Building materials or baselines for things that you can kind of add on top of. And that way, if we go to the restore shop, I think it is also called Habitat for Humanity in a lot of places, and we find a couple small pieces that could fit the space, then we go ahead and use it because we already have the baseline there. So gathering things when you can find them discounted or for free, and then just kind of having a stockpile a little bit. I know you may feel like your house looks a little bit like an episode of Hoarders, but I promise that when it comes the time that you need one of those things, being able to pull from your own stock or being able to pull from your own resources is going to be a lot better in the long run, especially right now when we're not only seeing increased prices, but we're also seeing shortages. So even if you have the money, you may not be able to find the resources in the store or in the location which you need. The second thing is to not expect perfection. I know that when we can usually get supplies because we have the money or they're available in the store, we can kind of really mold it off of exactly what we want. We have an image in our head, we can purchase the things that we need and we can do it. When you are being creative, it's not really going to look like that. It's going to look a lot messier than that. So be prepared for it to be a little messy and also be prepared for some frustration. It can be a little frustrating sometimes when you have to create something because in your head it will look one way and then when it's actually happening it may look another. So just keep in mind that you're probably going to run into frustration and you're going to run into probably a little bit of anger and a little bit of doubt, and that's okay. Just keep pushing forward and keep doing it. And what are a few things that you can do today? I always want to add this at the end of my videos. What are a few things that you can do today to cultivate creativity? The first thing is go onto Facebook and look up free. Just type in free. Don't type in anything after building materials, food, anything like that. Just type in free and see what pops up. If there's anything local in your area that you think you could utilize later, go get it. Just go get it and start somewhere. The second thing that you can do is choose not to go grocery shopping for one whole week or use your entire grocery budget to buy just pantry staples and then cook with whatever you happen to have in the house. So let's say you just have some leftovers in the freezer or something or in the fridge, utilize what you have and kind of force yourself to be creative. There's also a lot of YouTube channels that do things like that, and I think you can even go for a website called All Recipes. You can type in what you have. So get a little creative, find things that are for free, and cook with what you have just for this next week. Well, I hope that this was informative for you, and I hope that you're able to be creative in your life.